Hi, I'm Thea Lamkin. Hello. Hi. Thank you everyone for being here and for bearing with a long day of discussion. It's awesome to see so many people here still at this hour. I know that we've been talking a lot, taking lots of notes, and I think that the reason that I came last is because one of the things we want to make sure is this collaboration, all the conversations that we've been having today don't stop in this room when everyone goes home. We really want everyone to get together and continue engaging in our project collaboration channels after this event is done, and to actually kind of, put hands to keyboards and start to build all the things that we've been talking about together. And how are we going to do that? So that's what I'm going to talk about today, our project governance and community, which is basically how are we going to collaborate together and kind of expand the ecosystem that we're building. So, okay, our North Star with OpenXLA governance and why we're building our governance model the way we have is to ensure that together we can collaborate with ecosystem stakeholders to build an open industry standard ML infrastructure stack. There are lots of companies and stakeholders involved, lots of other projects in the ecosystem that are building things that are adjacent to OpenXLA, and without collaborating with them, we won't be able to achieve everything we've been talking about today. And in part, that requires some intentionality in how we're governing the actual project and how we're constructing our collaboration model. So I've had a lot of coffee, and I'm going to put the mic down because my hands shake. So hopefully everyone can hear me with the podium mic. Okay. So we also aim to bring value to our ecosystem of developers, vendors, and users. Want to make sure that we're looking to add value and have that be kind of a driving force in our community, and doing so in a productive, inclusive, and respectful way. And one of the most important things that I wanted to emphasize is that together, I want us all to move towards a shared project ownership. That is the goal. That is why we brought you here. We want you to take part, take ownership, contribute, and really help us drive where we're going. And by us, I mean everyone who's contributing to the project today, not just any individual company. So how do we get there? There are three pretty kind of chunks of the presentation that I put together that I think highlight the three important aspects of governance and collaboration in this community. So first off, we need an effective governance model. We also need to set expectations and practice of open communication, and we need to build shared investment in this project together. So first off, governance. The TLDR of governance is, this is how we define who makes decisions and how they are made, what shared expectations we have of people participating in our community, and what accountability mechanisms we have to make sure everything is operating by those principles, and also some preferred paths for collaboration. I say preferred because we're an organic community. We can't make sure that everyone is following the exact right processes all the time, but I think it's good for us to try to drive in those lanes that we've created together to make everything more effective. Our governance model is live on GitHub. Here is a link in the slides. All of the governance documentation and issues and PRs are transparent and can be seen in OpenXLA/community, which is our GitHub repo for all community documents and process. So in designing that governance model that I referenced, we learned from experiences and advice for other open source projects that we esteem greatly. And to mention some of them, LLVM, Carbon, Rust, PyTorch, and Swift all have really robust governance models, and we've kind of created an amalgam of the aspects of it that we thought would best fit OpenXLA. I want to give a call out to Mehdi Amini, who's right here. Because when I say we designed it, really it was Mehdi and a couple of other people. And I really appreciate, his stewardship of the whole model design process. So we have some high-level governance principles. We make consensus-based decisions to have both inclusive and efficient decisions. So basically, we try to get consensus. People can not necessarily agree with the decision is made, but not block that decision from moving forward. Escalations in the community are used very rarely. We try to have the decision-making process happen at the lowest level, which is at the PR, right? We only try to escalate things when it's absolutely necessary to clarify a decision or unblock somebody. We have a hierarchical governance structure, which I'll talk a little bit more later, that supports both decentralized decision-making, but also a growing and diverse community. We have transparent and clear processes to reduce barriers to contribution, and technical responsibility tracks with contributions. Nobody is going to be a maintainer if they are not actually doing the work in their code bases. Leadership is diverse and rewards continued investment. And by diversity, I don't mean just different companies. I also mean different roles, people working on different aspects of the project, not just code, but also documentation, and people who are bringing different perspectives to the project as well. So here's an overview of our governance structure, which you can kind of read all the minutia of how we've constructed this in that governance doc that I linked to before. But essentially you have 4 levels of governance or of roles in the community. You have contributors, module maintainers, core maintainers, and a lead maintainer. We have constructed this so they're very clear paths to escalation, but again, we don't want to use those unless absolutely necessary, and we expect and encourage most of the actual decision-making and code ownership to happen at the module maintainer level. We also really want to encourage module maintainers too within certain guidelines for governance that we're going to share and will be driven by core maintainers around transparency, making sure that we have, fair nomination of module maintainers and stuff like that, but to really drive their own components and the communities and processes that they use to get stuff done there. And how do we get to that model? Right now we're in a bootstrapping phase, and we've created the OpenXLA Interim Steering Committee, which sounds very obscure and honestly annoying. So we're hoping to dissolve ourselves as quickly as possible. But we're basically leading the creation of some structures and processes to implement this governance model, get core maintainers and module maintainers in place as soon as possible, and have really defined ways of promoting contributors to module maintainers and so forth. So we're focusing on governance documentation, code of conduct, RFC process, how we document who owns which pieces of code. You can take a look at our committee charter, and all of the work that we're doing and process we're putting in place can be followed on GitHub, in the open, in the community repo. These are the people. And if you want to come to the stage to introduce yourselves, that's totally fine. Mostly you might be seeing them on GitHub, which is why I put their GitHub profile pictures here on the slide. But this is what they look like in real life. Hi, Paul. I forgot what his name. Oh, that's okay. Anyway, this is Stella. I'm Thea. This is Eugene, Jeffrey, Jacques, and Stefan. And we represent different contributors to the different components that we have within the OpenXLA process project, as well as people who look at things like community and governance, and also GitHub project infrastructure. Thank you, Jeffrey, for all the work that you do there. Anyway, you can go back to your seats now. But yes, we don't want to, it is interim for a reason. After this conference and summit is over, we are looking forward to putting very clear guidelines in place about how to create module maintainer groups. And I want to call out Eugene, who just got off the stage, for really leading the way on how we do that with the stable HLO component. And thank you for being our guinea pig in that. Okay, so number 2 is open communication, which is really fundamental part of what we are doing here. I want to highlight and emphasize the value of transparency in this community. All open source projects have back channels. We've all been part of them, And so I want to be realistic about, what I say when I say transparency. Really what I want to do is aim for transparency as the default in the conversations that we have about anything that's going to land upstream in the open source project. Why? Is that open conversations build community knowledge. We don't have to say the same thing 5 times over. And we have, shared kind of compendium of understanding that exists in the open and really allows people to become productive much more quickly. We also can prevent cyclical decision-making where we didn't ask the person who really we should have asked for an opinion. We made a decision and now, oh gosh, that person's upset and really we should have asked them first or gotten their input. Now we have to relitigate the entire decision. That slows things down and makes like the velocity of our work stream suffer. And also we want to build trust in the decisions, not only in, maintainer communities, contributor communities, but also with our users. RFCs in the TensorFlow project get stalked by users all the time. Sometimes they don't say anything, but I oftentimes hear them come out and say, hey, thanks for like that RFC that was published 3 months ago. It was really great to see that design decision was coming down the pipe. So just know that people actually are out there and interested in reading things like design proposals. So again, transparency is a goal, but there are certain times when we must be transparent and have open communication. And that is when we're going to do something like a large design change, there needs to be opportunities for community input there. And when we make decisions, we must have open rationale for those decisions. And also, as a bonus, actual documentation of the concrete implementation steps that are an outcome of that decision. Okay, so where is all this communication happening? Here are our collaboration channels. That seems like too many to me, especially as a newcomer to the community. That's a lot to grok. So I think that if you're new, if you don't kind of know the ins and outs of the mailing list, the Discord, whatever, please, as a first order of business, subscribe to the OpenXLA Discuss mailing list. This will be basically the main channel that you can use for all project discussions and announcements. And also don't just listen to it, contribute your ideas and your questions. Ask about where to put a design proposal, ask for sponsorship for an RFC there. And also join that so you can make sure to get updates and meeting agendas for our bi-monthly community meetings. And then obviously there's GitHub. This is the source of truth for all things code and engineering and development. Also, this is where our design docs and RFCs actually live, as well as our documentation and build guides today. Yeah? I just mean, I mean by this all of GitHub.
Maybe folks can start at the community.
Yes. Oh yeah, you can start at the community repo. I guess what I meant to say is that these are like the 2 places where the work gets done primarily. And if you want to get down into the details of exactly what's happening in the development of OpenXLA, you can get into GitHub and look at the work streams, look at the different issue tags that different components are using to track their roadmaps and milestones. But if you just want kind of information pushed to you, please do subscribe to the OpenXLA Discuss mailing list. Does that clarify things? Okay. And the community repo is a great place to go as a kind of first point of entry for the GitHub project. Okay, so our third principle in what we're trying to do together and what I think we need to commit to as a community in order for this to work is to have a sense of shared investment in the project overall. I think we're doing a good job so far. We have a lot of companies in the room today, and I know that many people flew on an airplane to get here. Somebody told me, which is awesome. So thank you for the investment in this project, the fact that you made it here on very short notice. And it's really exciting to see so many people coming together in collaboration here. And so when I talk about shared investment in the project, I'm also talking about shared responsibility for actually doing the hard work that it takes to get an open source community off the ground, both from a logistics perspective, an infrastructure perspective, and an actual engineering perspective. I use this photo of a trail crew on Rainier to basically emphasize that a lot of the work that we do to enable like awesome user experiences is very toilsome and literally needs to a large group of people to actually achieve. It is really amazing if you're ever in the backcountry. You can be 20 miles off trail and all of a sudden there's like a rock staircase and you're like, how did this staircase come to be? I want us to be a community that builds staircases in the middle of nowhere. Maybe not, you know, maybe we can start with repaving sidewalks or something like that, but I think you get my point. So good kind of values to invest in. If something looks broken, say something. Better yet, propose a fix. If you build something, maintain it, submit tests, help us actually make sure that your code is usable and doesn't just break. Let's not have abandonware in our project. Also have empathy for those maintainers so that they're more likely to stick around. Maintaining code bases is hard work. And if we can approach everything with a degree of patience, that goes a long way. Chop wood and carry water, do the ugly, toilsome, and unsung work because somebody's got to do it. And if there's only one person doing it, then the whole project is going to fall apart. Educate and onboard newcomers. Take the learnings that you've had today and then turn around and pass it off to the next contributor who's interested in learning about OpenXLA. And most importantly, make it fun. We already have some areas where we could use help in case that got you, invigorated and feeling really motivated to contribute. We would love to see more community presentations, more community meeting hosts, not from Google, because I think the more hosts we have on our roster, the more likely that the meetings will be valuable, well-run, and have really awesome content and presentations for you all. Help us build project resources, including process and GitHub infrastructure. Help us build the documentation, even just telling us when the documentation isn't working. That's a great first step. And help us build events and evangelism. Next time we do a conference like this, I'm definitely going to ask for more help from the community because it's definitely a lot of work and I want to make sure that we get the word out there. If you have any other ideas of what you would like to help with, please email OpenXLA Discuss or file an issue in the community repo. Okay, so I hope that everyone has a better sense of how to get engaged in the project now, and I've left some time for Q&A.
Thea, to perhaps start us off here, I have a question for you and or perhaps Stella. Have you ever thought about an OpenXLA Foundation?
Set up. We definitely thought about it, and I've, in fact, remind me if we've talked about wanting to do this, right? Okay. We have talked about wanting to do this, and externally, internally, I think that at Google, we really want to get this community bootstrapped and get a foundation formed around it so that it is truly a neutral place where the governance can carry forward, where the contributions can carry forward, everyone can be an owner. Unfortunately, we are not lawyers, we are programmers, and this is not something we do every day. So it's taking some time even to get a commitment to know how to do this, and there's a lot of details. So just wanted to say that we are tacking in that direction. We do want it to happen. If people feel strongly about this, speaking up and making that known does help us prioritize getting this thing moving. Awesome. How's that for now?
Yeah. Anybody else? Nope. And then file an issue on the community repo. Thank you.